Hello and welcome to Office Hours Saturday edition. We've got a few questions in the queue, but we could use a few more and more importantly, vote up those questions. So we are a Q&A show, so you guys drive the show. We've got one here that's rather amusing for our first one. Courtney, you want to read that one?
Yes, comes all the way in from Germany, in Berlin. Andre Delay says, since we are a bit short on questions, hint, hint, any new AI-related things to show and tell?
Chris Sabato.
I've been just like clawing away at Claude Code, and I built three different websites this week. And unlike Paul Wallace, they're not just generic websites. These things are like they're tools that I use, right? I built a college athletics website directory, which seems like a simple thing. Like when we compete against an opponent, I may need to get information from them, like what's their mascot, what's their logo, what's their recent schedule, stuff like that. And I have bookmarks for teams we go against regularly. And for other teams, it's I got to Google, search for that school and try and find that school. And it's like, okay, well, there's 4 different Bethel universities in the U.S. Which Bethel university am I trying to get to? And so I created a website that would pop up that information. Let me see. And so, like, if I just, type in Bethel University, like, there's all my Bethels. There's a Bethany, but I can real quickly see which one it is, like, where it's located, what its mascot, and so I can quickly identify which one I'm trying to find. And then I thought, that's pretty good, but it's still, I got to go to a website to find it. And so I created a Chrome extension, which basically does the same thing. And so real quickly, I can get to any university's athletic website. And it's like one of those tools. It took me about 30 minutes to get something up and running, and then probably another couple hours of cleaning up the data. But I've used it multiple times in the last couple of days, and it's just been so convenient. It's like one of those tools where it's like, it just saves a little bit of time constantly here and there. And just being able to create something out of the blue has been pretty amazing. And I guess since we've got very few questions this morning, one of the other ones that I built this week was a photo tagging website. So when we have events and we're taking pictures, I don't want to put those pictures into into the system that publishes on the web, that goes into the archives, until I have tagged each photo with who's in the photo. Because if I don't, it's not going to get done. We'll do that later, and it never gets done. And so I have this rule that photos don't make it into the pipeline until they've been tagged with who's in them. And that makes it for sports like football and basketball, where they got big jerseys with big numbers on the front of them, and I can say, I know who that is based on that number. It's super easy. For photos like track and field, tennis, golf, swimming, that becomes much harder. And so trying to figure out who's in that photo based on like a headshot has been hard. And so what I typically do is from Lightroom, print out a PDF with all the photos, hand it to the coach, and they write who's in each photo. And so I built this website to basically kind of simplify that process. And so I can create a new gallery, and then I'm just going to drag a couple photos in. And so I got some photos there, and this is where I would drag in all the photos. And it's going to, no matter what size these photos are, it will resize them in JavaScript before I upload them, so it doesn't, they're not huge files. Oh, I need to give it a title. Let's give it a title. If I can spell test correctly. And so it's going to resize them, upload them, and then now it gives me this link. And so I can take that link and I can open that. And what I would do is send that to somebody, a coach, an athlete, someone else, and then they get this link and they can they can go through and identify each photo. And so they can type in a name, Bob Smith, and boom. And so now that photo is tagged, and that name is up here. So if Bob Smith comes up again, I can click it again. But I also have rosters preloaded, so I can just select a roster. And so now I can just say, that's Joe, that's Adam, that's Major, and now we're done. I click Submit All, and now it, for their intents and purposes, they're done. I get an email, I get a ping on Google Hangouts that's done, and the first time I did it, I sent it off of like with an email to one of the coaches, like, hey, this is a test. I'm just gonna see how this works, and expecting like I'll get something back in the next couple days. Within 10 minutes, it was done, and it's just like, this is okay. If this is how it's gonna work every time, this is gonna save me so much time. And so it's just another one of those tools that like it's not super complicated, but it targets a specific need and solves that problem or makes that problem easier. And that's one of the things that Claude Code has just been like amazing at for me.
I wish that more people that are listening right now fully grasp what you just said and what you did and how that's a real world use. Because when you start solving problems like that, especially when you put the ball back in somebody else's court and leverage their time to tag assets, and it used to be like a ordeal and a thing, and it would take so much time. So appreciate you sharing that. Craig, you got one? Oh, go ahead, Chris.
I was just say one of the interesting things that I like gleaned from the process of creating that one was that I created that tool to solve a problem in my workflow, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But when it was all done, I got to thinking, I was like, what I really should have done is rethought the whole workflow. And so like going further, so right now what happens is at the end, I can download I can look at all the photos and see who's in them, and so I can just match them up on Lightroom. Or there's also a Python program that I can download the CSV that will match the files and apply the metadata to the full size files. And that works. And it was super easy, and it's like, oh, this is great. It's like, well, maybe if I just rethought it, maybe I just have my photographers upload directly to that site the full size photos, and then I just download them with the metadata attached, and so it's one of those things where like you can solve a problem in your workflow, but sometimes maybe stop and like maybe that's not the right workflow.
Sometimes you got to get the ball rolling to see what's possible, and then back up and go, okay, now that's what happened to me yesterday. When we get to mine, same thing happened where it's just like throw it out there to prove that it can be done, and then break it and let other people say, hey, can we improve this way? What's the overall goal, and how can we make it easier for them and for us? So that's awesome. Craig?
I don't have anything specific to show, but I was just, as Chris was talking, it just reminded me how a lot of times I and many people, I think, just hesitate when the problem just seems like, I could never write a program to do that complex a thing in a reasonable time, wherever. And so you hesitate. And those are the sort of problems that AI is surprisingly good at. I'm surprised every week I'll pick some feature that I want, and it's like, I'll save that one for the end because that's the hardest. And it might actually be easy enough to describe, but you're just thinking that it's so complicated. And that's the stuff that AI is really good at, tackling the first time, identifying the issues, asking questions of you, and then banging it out. And I've done a bunch of features, including a bunch of MCP, which is the AI interface to various applications and servers, where I've added it. And it's a lot more complicated than it sounds, because you don't just give the AI access to the data in a structured way, but also here's all the features that are open to you and why you would want to use those features. And so it's like rebuilding the whole interface to all of the apps. And if it's a pretty significant app, it takes a while. But I've just been stunned at how quickly it burns through all of that stuff and blows it out. And yeah, I was thinking it would get 60 or 70% of the way, but I'm surprised at how close to 95% it gets. If you can just describe the problem fairly well, it's pretty straightforward, especially if it's a common problem. People say, oh, yeah, I've had this in my memory, boop, and whips it out. So there's a whole learning that we're doing on, you have an idea, prototype, mock it up, have AI play with it, and then you know enough to describe it and have, build the spec so I can give that spec to AI to build this out, and then have AI build it out, and it's amazing. But there's still just this learning curve and loop that we're on, learning, especially for those of us that have been in engineering for a while, just learning new metrics and new ways of doing things.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait for more people in the community to get involved. We're trying to figure out some more labs to be able to do and get people onboarded so that you at least dabble, whether it be Gemini, Claude, OpenAI's got ChatGPT, but also has Codex. One of the ones that just kind of shocked me that I had showed, I think it was about a week ago, was this Kickathon one. So this was a Kickathon that a friend was putting on. He texted me what he wanted. 2 hours later, I spit out this thing, which basically measured every time that somebody kicked, it would increase the number, so that it's $8. But I sent him this video within 2 hours of him saying, hey, could this be done? And he was just blown away. The crazier thing, though, is that since I showed that, one of another members in our community in Discord who does CrossFit stuff took my code. I put it up in the Discord here. So I put it on GitHub. So Mark Britton said, hey, look what I did with your code. And he made this one that measures push-ups, squats, burpees, sit-ups. So he took my project, and that's one of the joys of this community is like, hey, I like what you did there, but I need to tweak it a little bit. And I was like, this is just free stuff. Here's the code. And I was shocked that he just sent that like within a few minutes. He sent it back and was just like, hey, it's embedded in a web page now, and anybody could go to it. So that one just blew my mind. Another one that blew my mind that I've been working on, I've told you guys about this transcription service that I want to be able to do for office hours. And so the other day, I loaded through the YouTube API. I loaded everything. It took 174 million characters to transcribe all the office hours episodes, and it did it in a few minutes. It sucked them all down. So this is the auto captions that have already been done. So I pulled them all down, and then I just searched right now for the word Courtney. And the cool thing is that here's all the results for Courtney. So you could say, like, you could see January 10. So it says, Courtney, what do you think? And then if you click, you could jump to that episode, and it'll actually play out that point in time where the word guy? Courtney was said. Yeah, I know that guy. So it's very cool to have this, and I'll make it public eventually once we get this put on a proper platform. But again, just another cool thing that you can do with AI. So I just asked it, so hey, go in here, here's the API. Of course, I had to do a bunch of authorization stuff, but once I did, and to see it, and I connected my Supabase database, so this doesn't live on my hard drive, it lives in a proper Supabase database. But when I said, how many words did you grab? It said, well, it took 174 million characters. I was like, it's just mind-blowing that there's 174 million characters. So look forward to seeing what we can do with that. Let's go ahead and jump to the next question.
All right, next one comes in from New York City. Brody Hefner asked, what are some pros and cons of utilizing the latest Mac Mini versus micro PCs as single-purpose devices?
Go, Chris.
Well, so I guess there's I'm not sure which way this question is actually going. Are you asking the difference between Mac and the PC in this context, or are you saying what is the benefits of using a Mac or a PC, right? And so I'll give you a little bit of both, right? So one of the reasons I have it separately is because my main desktop is a institutional desktop. It's got Sophos on it. It's like I'm constant. Actually, no, it's not Sophos anymore. I don't remember what it is, but it's something else. There's something that I like. I've been having all kinds of trouble where like VS Code just disappears when I reboot for some reason, and they can't figure out why. Like I tried anti-gravity, and then it blocked that, and then they whitelisted it. So I've been going through all kinds of stuff with IT for apps like that. And so having something separate, it's on its own. It's its own thing. I can SSH into it. I've got some Cloudflare tunnels set up so I can SSH into it from a browser from anywhere in the world. And it's super convenient to just kind of have it on its own thing. It's by itself. It's not on my university owned computer system. And in terms of Mac versus PC, like it just depends. I'm a PC guy, right? And I happen to have an old NUC that's, high-end Skull Canyon NUC. It's got an i7 with 32 gigs of RAM. And so all right, it's interesting. It's a high-end NUC. It's got an i7 and 32 gigs of RAM, but it won't run Windows 11. And so from our IT perspective, they're like, it's garbage. I'm like, okay, let's install Linux on it. And so now this is my personal Linux box that is just for Claude Code. And, if you're a Mac guy, the Mac might be a better option for you.
Go, Courtney.
Yeah, I think it does depend. If you live totally in the Apple world and the only thing you ever want to hook up to or look at or software that you want to run, then you got to go for the Mac Mini because, you can't run that Mac software on these much more capable and much cheaper mini PCs that are out there. These have gotten a lot more expensive. This is a GMK Tech G5. They no longer sell this, and thanks to imports, I was just looking at some of the prices. If you get into the Mac Mini world, just if you're going to use this as a single-purpose appliance, you're going to start at $600 for the base Mac Mini, unless you can get them for an educational market or something. So you may be overkill in buying a Mac Mini if you're going to do something that can run cross-platform or only run in the Mac world. You're going to buy in at $600 a pop for each one. If you go to the mini PC, you can see you can get a quite capable N95. This will run Windows 11. And I think usually they come with a Windows 11 Pro license, as does the one I was just holding up from GMK Tech. These are $219 a piece. Now, the price on these mini NUCs have gone up considerably since the tariffs hit. So you can see they do have much more capable. You can get them, if you need power to do whatever you're doing, you can get Ryzen 7s in these things for still under $100 cheaper than you can buy the Mac Mini. They're smaller in size. They're lighter. They have more ports on them. So you have all those advantages once you're into the Windows NUC world. You also have the ability to do stick PCs, which you don't have anywhere in the Apple world. And these are handy to have for digital signage, or I used to use these all the time on TV shows where I had to have a room full of computers that were running things that looked like they were real computers. Well, they are real computers because they were running Windows, and I could remotely talk to them over the network. This has gigabit Ethernet built into it. It also has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and it has HDMI out for 1080p as well as USB 3. All the ports are already built in, so you can plug this on the back of a TV monitor and use it as a fixed display to, for example, display stats or meeting schedules or something at a convention and so on. It'll just continue to run there 24/7, and so you can use it then as kind of a little appliance. So I think the mini PCs are a much better value as long as what you need to run will run on the Windows or DOS platform. You have a lot more software available to you on the micro PC version. I tell you, I used to recommend the quieter PCs, and they have certainly got a lot more expensive. I was just checking Amazon. The quieters, the Melee's Quieter 4C, fanless, so they're great to use in a situation like a recording studio where you need to put some images up or some communications up or a Zoom meeting up. These are now up to $400, still cheaper, still $200 a piece cheaper These used to be like $200, so now they're $400.
Yeah, what the
They've
heck?
almost
That's not
doubled
even
in price.
DDR5 RAM. What the heck,
Yeah,
man?
and this is
Gouging.
the one that I just held up here. Used to be about $179 or $200 is now $379. Thank you, tariffs and the memory prices have driven that
Yeah.
stuff up because even
That's
those
crazy
that
because
haven't
they were
been
such a great value,
manufactured.
but now it's like,
Yeah,
that's within Mac Mini reach or buying an older Mac Mini.
right. If you
That's
buy a
crazy.
used Mac Mini or a refurbished Mac Mini off the Apple refurbished website, and as long as it will run the software you want to run,
Yeah.
then you can sometimes get a good deal. I found the problem in using the Mac Minis is since they're carved out of blocks of aluminum, if you want to use them as an appliance, like hide it behind a monitor mounted on a wall, you got to come up with some robust mounting solution because they weigh a lot. And they're going to fall if you try and use Velcro or sticky, some kind of hard Velcro or something to attach them. After they heat up for a while, they fall off, and then you have a
They do
Mac
make these
Mini in a
really
little
cool
pile.
sonnet racks for them, though.
Yeah,
So,
if you want
yeah,
to use them as appliances, they are more expensive, and you are paying that Apple tax.
yeah, it really depends on what you want to do because I have like a B-Link that I use for all my AI stuff, and it's perfect for that. I wiped it from having Windows on it, and it just has Ubuntu with a Proxmox on it, so I can install a bunch of different dev stuff, and it contains all my websites. So that website I was just showing you for the transcription, it actually lives on that thing. I don't know how I would do that on the Mac. I don't think it's possible to do all the stuff that I did on that. But for like a Zoom room, you could go either way, really. So the bummer about a Zoom room, though, is that if you hit the Windows key, so basically a Zoom room takes over the whole computer. It just says, I own this thing. It's an appliance now. With a Mac, it completely locks you out of being able to get to, let's say you needed to go to like NDI Studio Monitor or make some change to the OS. It completely locks you out. You cannot get to it. Command tab does not work. On Windows, if you actually push the Windows button, you could still get to the Windows interface. And so you could jump to change like webcam input or something like that if you need to change a camera or something. So it just depends on your needs and what you want to run because there's pros and cons. Let's go to the next question.
Next one comes in from Chautauqua, New York. Zach Stallsmith asks, should I take Dante course version 2 or jump to version 3?
Chris Sabato.
I don't see why you would take version 2 over version 3. Version 3 is just the newer, better version. Like if it wasn't better, they wouldn't have made it, right? So that's I would do 3.
All right, next question.
Next one comes in from Andre Dali in Berlin, Germany. A volunteer elf would like to create a QR code for officehours.global/donate. Which font do we use, and who can contribute the logo? As we test a graphics tool for vMix now, we could actually show several bugs.
We got elves? Man, we're like Santa Claus. We're like North Pole elves wandering around. I know that Florence just asked for the logo and has it at the ready. So, Andrea, if you ask Florence, I'm sure she'd get you that logo. And then I'm not sure if we have like, a package that says this is the specific font that, the agency that we hired for $1 million, said you must use this color, this font, and here's your guidelines. I don't think we have any of that. So
we need a style guide.
We need a style guide. Yeah, one day, dare to dream. But yeah, reach out to Florence, and I'm sure she'll kick you over that logo. Let me look down. Actually, Mickey's saying we do have a style guide, so that's news to me. Let's
if nobody knows about it. If nobody knows about it, does it really exist?
Yeah, that
It was
might
just
be a
created
good thing
by
to have on the website.
ChatGPT just now.
Yeah, talk about it was made within the last 5 minutes.
Someone just typed in, create a style guide for officehours.global. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, Mickey, if you could put that up wherever or somebody else in chat where that lives, ideally it would be public, on the About Us or something. Note for RFI. Let's put that somewhere where everybody can find it. Next question.
Next question comes in from John Foltz in Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania. I'm looking to add 2 or 4 NDI cameras to a podcast suite. I will likely have really slim funds for this. Any suggestions?
Chris Sabato.
My go-to for cheap NDI is Ada. I think it's a pretty good bang for the buck. You can get cheaper. You can find some stuff on Amazon. You can find some stuff on Alibaba and whatever, Temu, but like bang for the buck. The Ada stuff I think is really good. It's not good. It's good for the money, right? It's and I one of the ones that I like is the Ada full HD NDI HX IP streaming POV camera in $350. That's an education price. I know John is an educational institution, so I'm guessing you can get that B&H price. On its own, it's without the education price, it's not that much. It's still pretty affordable. They also have I have the Ada NDI 200. I have probably 10 of those. They're good too. They give you an HDMI out. The one I just showed is just NDI. That's all it is. The 200 gives you an HDMI out as well, and then they also have a version that has an SDI out as well. But I think that is a good bang for your buck NDI camera. It's the CCS lenses, so you could swap those lenses out. I've put big long lenses on some of those to use center field, baseball pitcher batter shots. And so the neat thing about those is they're small, they're compact, and you can change the lenses.
Yeah, I used to be an Ada dealer, and I out of all the other cameras besides Marshall's also in that same arena as far as quality and ability to change out the lenses and be miniaturized and robust industrial.
Yeah, Marshall is good. Marshall is more expensive.
Yeah. And the other thing that I would recommend, John, is taking a look at if they are NDI HX2 or 3, because 3 is a little bit more fast and it's just a better codec overall. So the NDI 2 can have a little bit more latency. The other thing is my friend Benji, who does this cooking show, blew me away with just using those little DJI Osmo Pocket 3s because they have 1-inch sensors on them, which is a gorgeous look. So it's not NDI. So if you don't need to use NDI, this is just a USB connection straight in. So he's using Ecamm, but you could use Mimo Live, you can use vMix, you can use other tools that will control the PTZ of that $500 camera that you could pick up at Costco. So they have them just right there on aisle 5, I think it is. They're all different. But it blows my mind that you could pick up a 1-inch sensor on a camera at your local grocery store. I mean, that's just mind blowing. So once you add the presets, you can get, 3 different camera looks, if you will, because for his show, he's got the cutting board, he's got the food, and then he's got the talent. So he's able to go boom, 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 boom. And he has a remote operator that's just team viewered in. So the remote operator's 30 miles away, and they're hitting these presets and just boom, 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 moving the cameras around. So I would say don't just look at NDI, look at some of your other options for that same kind of money. And then if you need more reach, ObSpot has the tail too, and that one's an NDI camera, and it has 12x, up to 12x, depending on if you're in HD or 4K. But I just used one of those to help a friend shoot a play the other day, and I was like, man, that's pretty decent. I had my CX350, and I was comparing the image quality, and I was like, I mean, it's nice it's $1,000 camera, so it's not cheap. So depending on what your budget is, I would look at those as well. Let's go to the next question.
Comes in from Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas. Paul asks, can Chris talk about the primary tools he uses in his web dev work?
Yeah, go Chris.
So in terms of like software suites that I use, it's basically Claude Code and VS Code. Those are primarily the 2 that I use. In terms of like end destinations, I'm using GitHub a lot. I have a DigitalOcean droplet that's where I put a lot of the like tools and things that are like mine personally or things that I want to share with the community I work in. And then I also have a server on campus where I'm putting tools that are specific for the work I do at Willamette. I do it. Some of it just kind of depends on like what I'm actually doing. In like historically, what I've done is I have for my server on campus, I have all of that stuff is on a Google Drive that I open in VS Code and then push via SFTP up to that server. And so I can open VS Code on any computer where I've got Google Drive installed, and so all my local files are there, and then I can push things up to the server as need be. With Claude, I'm doing a lot more of, like, Claude is just doing everything, and I'm not actually really dipping my hands into the code barely at all. But sometimes I need to, and for that I'm using some VS Code extensions where I'm actually SSHing via VS Code directly into that server and editing the files live on the server. And so it's really not that complicated. Like, it's VS Code, it's Claude Code, and it's Git. Those are the three things that I use regularly.
Nice. And then did you hit any of those limits this week? Because I had some oddness in Claude Code, so I wound up switching over to Codex just to get some work done. But did you? I see Craig nodding his head that he had the same thing, because Churig and I both had the same thing where it said you hit your limit. And I was like, because I had downgraded to the $100 a month plan, and I was like, I'll just see if I hit the limit. And then I hit this limit, and I was like, was that something I did? And then I upgraded to the 200, and it was still like, you're at your limit. And I was like, I just need to get some work done. So I went over to Codex and got work done.
I've not, no, like, and I'm still in the $20 a month plan.
That's crazy.
So I got, they had a thing where they were giving away $50 free.
Yeah.
And so I've got that. And so I've dipped into that. I'm like $20 into that every now and then I'll dip into. I'll run out of tokens for a session. But I've not had an issue where it's like, oh no, I need something and it's not there.
That reminds me, there's some nonprofit stuff where we can get them for $8 a month. So I need to dig into that. Taylor had said that he took advantage of that for his nonprofit. So we should look into that and see if our community would, all band together and just be like, hey, let's get on this $8 plan. Craig.
Yeah, there was some weirdness with Claude, the token values and whatnot. I also noticed that, so they have a deal where your tokens go twice as far off hours. So I found that I've been shifting some of the code work to late at night or first thing in the morning, just to take advantage of that.
Nice. And don't forget that we are a 501c3 and your donations matter. So for those of you that didn't watch last Sunday's show, we had an anonymous donor. Thank you, Mr. Anonymous Donor, for kicking in $1,800, and that $1,800 will go to matching anybody who wants to set in a recurring donation. So throw in $5 a month, and it actually doubles to 10 with that $1,800 up to $1,800. So hit the officehours.global/donate site, and you can set up that recurring donation. Let's jump to the next question.
Next one comes in from Peter Belbin in Houston, Texas. Craig, with ShowHub about to go live, what lessons learned can be shared about the process, and what would you do different if starting over?
Throw it out there and break it, fix it. Go, Craig.
Part of it is just learning. So for those who don't know, behind the scenes, we use a whole bunch of Google spreadsheets strung together to coordinate who's going to cover what for every show, as well as when we used to do second hour episodes, to coordinate the topics and the guests and all the logistics. And there's always limitations to spreadsheets. So maybe it's a month now, I thought, well, what platform, if we were going to build something, what platforms? And then within half an hour or an hour, I had the bones of it. And then it turned into, oh, actually, we could do this. And within a week, it was, probably 70 or 80% of what we have. As far as, my general approach was, let me try to just get the functionality that's performed in the spreadsheet so we could drop that, because it's a lot of work to maintain and really brittle, and then see where the needs of the community go and where the imagination goes as far as new things that we could do. That was the intent. And whenever you're replacing an existing app, there's a lot done, decisions that were made years ago, or the organization's process wraps around those features in a certain way. And so when you go to replace it, if it's not perfectly exactly fitting the same way, you're going to learn things like, oh, wait, you're changing this feature, which changes our process, and we counted on that process. And so you're going to disrupt a lot. And especially for tools as we had, there's a lot that's not written down of, oh, when you change this field, this other function gets it, and then it goes to another spreadsheet and another spreadsheet, and there's this ripple effect. And so just changing to a new platform, you think you've got it all covered. There's a lot you just don't know you don't know. And so those are some of the big things. There's definitely some things that just process-wise, they're going to cause issues where if we want to not have it open so that everybody can see everything, which you kind of sort of can in the spreadsheets, but as we add new features and add people's emails and other kinds of things, you want to protect privacy and whatnot, so you only want certain people to access it. And so figuring out who needs to see what when can be a little disruptive socially. And so just being open about that. And some of those decisions are me just as a placeholder that we'll need to weed through and figure out what makes sense. Like some of the things recently are more when a certain role, host is the easy example, isn't filled. Do we send alerts out? When do we send alerts out? All right. And what about reader? What about other? And going down the list of various roles, which ones do we send alerts out and when? And there isn't one definition for that. So we've got to have placeholders for now, and then have everybody be patient on, all right, that's probably too frequent. I don't need alerts from that. And figuring those sort of social community issues. And I've also been surprised at how many people are actually anxious to jump in and help with the building. And so the intent is, I'm not sure if it's going to happen in April, but shortly after launch, I want to shift it over to an Office Hours GitHub repo so that we can, as a community, contribute to it, and it's not all on me. I certainly don't want to be a bottleneck. So I'm really looking forward to what other people can contribute.
That's so cool. It reminds me of that book that I'm reading by Walter Isaacson, where he talks about how Linus Torvalds started Linux and the whole GNU thing. And it's cool if we could use our talents, design, make something, and then give it back to the community and be like, you improve it, just like what I did with my Kickathon thing. I'd love to see more of that, where it's like, hey, there was a demand. I created this thing. It's okay. But if you want it, here it is. Like, go at it. And then we have 9 questions right now in the voting. So vote them up or vote them down, because I don't think we're going to hit all of them. But if you have a really great question, go ahead and throw it in, and maybe it'll rocket to the top. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. So Craig said we use spreadsheets and they're kind of tied together. And I think that severely underestimates what actually was going on under the hood. And I am pretty knowledgeable, and when I first got into that spreadsheet, I was just like, what is going on here? This is crazy. And so what he's doing with ShowHub is amazing, right? And it's interesting because I'm actually one of the third project I worked on this week was a similar thing where we have this spreadsheet at work where it's not quite as convoluted, but there's a lot of things. There's a lot of like custom stuff, and like it's fragile is like exactly when you do this stuff in spreadsheets, like if you're the only one who does them, they work great. When you start getting other people into those, they become super, super fragile. And it's so powerful to be able to just be like, okay, here it is on the web. It does this thing. And I don't care who you are. You can't make it not do that thing, right? It's like it's programmed in. And that's really amazing. And like being able to use Claude for me, Claude. I'm not actually sure what Craig's using, but being able to take that stuff that we was brittle and we could make work with Google Sheets, and to like hone that down into like actual code that's solid and runs the same way every time, that no one can touch, is really powerful.
Nice. Next question.
Next one comes in from Brody Hefner in New York City. What are some production use cases for the new and remarkably low-cost MacBook Neo?
Go ahead, Courtney.
Well, it's not that remarkably low cost. You know, if you look at them, it's an A18 Pro chip, and for exactly the same price, you can get a Mac Mini. So if you're talking about production use and not educational use, where you get $100 off, you know, you get more bang for the buck, I think, for getting a Mac Mini. So because the Mac Mini, you'll get the A4, you get more ports, you get the ability to handle, you know, you get, I think, more Thunderbolt. And a lot better capability of the neural networks, I think, on the Mac Mini than you do on the Neo. And I took a look at the Neo in the Mac store the other day, and I did notice I didn't like the design of the keyboard. The keyboard is not backlit, so if you're using it in a production situation and you expect to be able to use it in a low light situation like backstage where there's not a lot of lighting, you're going to have to put a light on it to be able to see where all the keys have moved to. So take that into consideration. If you're not in an educational use, if you're in an educational institution that does, you know, production, you know, it's an entry level. If you need to be in the Mac world because of the software that you're running, it's the cheapest entry level. But remember, it is running an A18 processor and not the M series processor. So it's not quite as capable. It's designed to run a phone, not necessarily a computer, although it is, you know, running the regular Mac operating system and not the iOS. So if you need to live in that world, it is a good value, but I'd look at the Mac Mini rather than this because I think you get more bang for the buck out of the Mac Mini.
Go ahead, Chris.
I think it's one of those things where, like, if you know, you know, right? Like we have a lot of throwdown laptops, right? Where like I need to put a laptop next to a play-by-play person so he can access a website with stats for the game. Like that doesn't need to be anything fancy. We use hand-me-down Windows laptops for that. But like if I was in the real production world, like okay, like here's a cheap way that I can just put a web browser in front of a person, and I can see the value in that. I can see where that would be handy for a lot of people. It's affordable. It's good quality. It does what it needs to do. If you're talking about things like in the production pipeline, I agree with Courtney. If like a Mac Mini is probably a better choice, but it's one of those things where you need something where you can just throw down something with a keyboard and a monitor. It's affordable, and I can see where that would come in handy.
Yeah, I was strolling through Costco once again, and they had one on display. They only had the one. They didn't have any for sale, or otherwise I probably would have walked out with one because I was blown away at the speed of it. I clicked on all the apps. I was like, okay, photos, email, let's add a photo to an email. All right, that was fine. I think it was numbers and something else. I launched like 5 apps, and then I checked the memory, and I was like, man, it's still at 6. It still has 2 left. So I'm like, iMovie, click, scrub, export iMovie, and it just handled it. Still at the 2 gigs remaining, and I was like, that's crazy for the value. I have an older i9 32 gig that cost me like $3,000. Sure, the screen's gorgeous, it's big, and I like the backlit keyboard and some of the things, but it runs circles around my old i9, and my i9 is so hot. Like you can't put it on your lap. It is so hot. So I'm tempted to get one because I do a lot of stuff with Splashtop. So I actually remoted to other machines. So for me, it's perfect for things like that, where it's jumping to another machine. I was waiting for Tamara to say, oh, she did. Tamara says, I have one in the house. The Neo is perfect if you need a computer to do general work on, and it's a great writing computer. Perfect to take on the go, etc. It does a lot more than you'd expect, but it's not a production computer. If you're using it for production, the Mac Mini is the way to go. James Haldane said around twice a year someone comes into an event off the street and steals a laptop. It always seems to be a Mac and is often on lunch and by near the door, maybe leave one by the door. So the fully loaded MacBook you could get that thing up to $8,000, $8,000. And I always feel nervous when I take something that expensive out. So it's always nice to have a cheaper one that you can leave in the car. If you're going out to dinner, you don't have to carry it. Because I've been known to carry my backpack with my expensive laptop into a nice restaurant because I just don't like leaving stuff in the car, especially if you're in the Bay Area. That thing will be gone. So there's something about having this little throwdown. Yeah,
he's making a point. It makes a good bait computer.
Yeah, especially the lime green one. It's got that, eye-catching color. Great. All right, let's go to the next question.
Next one comes in from Jeff Veely in Henderson, Texas. The Mac Pro is rumored to be discontinued altogether. I think it's actually been announced. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think we're going to have a moment of silence. Fade to black. No. Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, I often wonder, is the age of having a single desktop or tower that's super powerful, what I would actually prefer instead of a Mac Pro would be some sort of cluster frame that you could toss in a bunch of workhorse Mac Minis that could collectively connect with a faster bus, and then some software that would allow you to use that cluster in a productive way. I think that's probably going to be more bang for your buck than what they would put in a Mac Pro.
Nice. Next question.
Next one comes in from Guy Cochran. Who is that? In Seattle, Washington. Can I share how I fixed my PC to handle 1080p 60 enhanced media? Ooh, it's a Cochran.
Yeah, so this was an interesting one. I have this Alienware that I picked up at the local Best Buy a couple of years ago, and it wasn't a cheap computer. It was like $1,800, and I loaded in immediately 128 gigs of RAM. So I updated the RAM, just opened it up, dropped in the RAM, didn't think much of it. I'm used to like a Mac Pro. You just throw it in there, and you turn it on, and it works. Well, lately I've been having this problem where because of the 1080p 60, I'm used to doing 1080p 30 vMix with this PC, and I'm able to do telestration. I'm able to, cut to different things and do pictures and no problem. But when we started doing the 1080p 60 testing, my computer would go to 99% and just start sending Zoom 320 by 240. So some of you probably saw me come in low resolution. So I was like, something's just not right. And Mickey's like, just reinstall your OS. And I was tempted to do that, but I just knew that was going to take a long time because I got to put vMix and licenses and all. There's a lot of stuff on here, DaVinci Resolve and whatnot. So I asked ChatGPT, our friend, and it says, hey, when I asked it, it says, can you send a screenshot of your task manager memory? And so I sent it this picture, this screenshot. Let's see if it's still in here. Yeah, and so, it looked at all this, and it said, this thing here, speed 2400 MTS. And I never paid any attention to that. I didn't even know really what that meant. And it said, what you have is blah, blah, blah. But it said your speed is 2400 MTS, and it said, the important performance insight is that you should be at 3200. You're capable of more. And so it said what you need to do is you need to check your BIOS, XMP, reboot, press F2, look for XMP profile, enable it if available. I did this. This machine flies now. So it went up to the full 3200. So my computer got 10 to 15% faster. And I've been using this thing for like 4 years in this mode that was not the right mode. So I'm not a PC tinkerer or builder or anything. I just bought this thing because it was cheap and I needed to run some certain apps and it was doing its thing. But it's amazing how much better this machine is now just with a one tweak. So if you've upgraded RAM on one of your PCs, if you're not a complete propeller head, ask ChatGPT, take a screenshot, give it to it, and see what it says. You might be surprised. All right, next question.
Next one comes in from Greg Kadoki in Toronto, Canada. The first M4 minis were sold with Sequoia. Is there any reason a new one purchased today be downgraded to avoid Tahoe?
That's a good question. It depends on what you want to run. I know that somebody like Mickey, let's look down at the chat, and He hasn't. Come on, Mickey, throw it in there. Come on, throw it in there that you got to downgrade because the most stable thing is one of the more previous OSs for a lot of us. I have a second machine that I use with Tahoe just to test things, and I've been testing things like the ATEM software control, Zoom tiles, Zoom graphics toolkit. So I just use it to bang on that computer, and it's been fine. I've also put OpenClaw on another user and been beating up on that. So it just depends on what you want to do and what it's going to be used for, if it's in production or whatnot. If it's an audio app like Logic, I mean, just you got to jump into the forums and see what people say. But sometimes the drivers haven't been updated yet. And if something's stable, I mean, you don't want to set yourself up for failure. So I'd probably downgrade it, but that's me if you're using it for everyday normal stuff, email, your Final Cut editing, that kind of thing. But I know people like Grant like to push it to the utmost limit and use the latest and greatest in production. So it all varies on your tolerance for pain. You know, if you want something that just works, downgrade. If you want something that's cutting edge and you like the new look, then go keep it on Tahoe. Next question.
Next one comes in from Vic Hernandez in Springfield, Missouri, and also toiling behind the scenes here on the show today. Are we having a ShowHub training or rundown in after hours after today's show?
Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, so we'll do more of a Q&A based. It's not a formal training, but happy to run through various work streams, activities, settings. It changes every few days, or I guess improves every few days as people put in suggestions and ideas. So happy to go through that for as many people want to continue to ask questions right after this show in after hours, and I'll do the same for after tomorrow's show.
All right. Next question.
Next one comes in from Pennsylvania in Selingsgrove. John Foltz asks, Chris, do you use Claude Code in the terminal, VS Code, or desktop app? I've been playing around with all three.
Chris.
I don't use the desktop app. Primarily, I'm using it in terminal because typically I will have multiple tabs on my terminal window. Like usually I'm SSH'd into my Linux box where I'm running Claude Code. Then I have another pane that I'm SSH'd into whatever server I'm publishing to. So primarily I'm in the terminal. For some stuff where I want Claude to do some work on an existing project that was maybe hand-coded, maybe it's some old code. Sometimes I'll do that from VS Code. I'll open up the folder and open up the page and use the VS Code a plugin to be like, hey, look at this thing, look at this function. Can you help me with this function? That's it. And I don't even have the desktop app installed. I have the phone app installed. I don't know. I got to poke around with the remote control on the phone app and kind of see how that works. But I haven't done it yet. It's on my list of things to explore.
Craig.
Yeah, I would go with your gut as far as where your comfort is. I mean, I've got 5 or 6 terminal windows open at any one time, but I use the desktop app because I switch back and forth between Cowork, Claude Code, and just Claude Chat. And now with these other features, it's integrated. And I just feel more comfortable with that interface and I have VS Code as well, but you got to go with the interface you're comfortable with. A lot of folks, if you're not used to being in the terminal, there can be a little bit of an edge to that and discomfort. Whereas if you're more used to a graphical interface, go with that. I'd say that's more important than which functions better, because you can do the same in either, but it's really where do you feel most comfortable.
Yeah, I was going to show mine, but it's got too much sensitive stuff in there. The desktop app's pretty neat if you're on a Mac, especially because you can, with Cowork, have it take over your computer, which is pretty neat. I mean, it's kind of like the open claw with guardrails. When you see it moving around, especially if you give it access to your Chrome with the plugin, it can search websites, scrape websites. It's really neat. So it depends on what you want to do. I use a little app called Termius, which allows me to jump from computer to computer to computer, and all the logins are in there, so I can SSH into things and not have to remember all these passwords, especially if they're those hash ones. And so I just use my OAuth from Google to get into Termius. It does cost money to use Termius, but the other nice thing is that I use it on my iPad when I'm traveling, and I could use my Unify router they have this thing called Wi-Fi Man that allows me to VPN super easy. So using my iPad, I can use terminal into that little Linux box that I have here. So I'm in my server just by opening up my laptop. It's pretty cool. Back to Chris.
So if you're new, as Craig said, use what you're comfortable with. I found, and this is anecdotal, is that I feel like the terminal performs better than the VS Code plugin. That just could be anecdotal. I don't know. But for those who are kind of new to terminal or maybe don't do a ton of work in it. So this is my terminal Claude. One of the things that is really neat with the newer versions on Windows is I can right click up here and I can go split tab. And now I can SSH into another computer.
Nice. Next question.
All right, next question comes from Angelo Jack in Brooklyn, New York. Are there any good AI models that can be run locally for vibe coding?
Courtney.
Now, I don't know because I don't use any of these, but I'm going to pose these questions to our AI experts that are on the panel today, as I've heard that OpenClaw can be run 100% locally on your own hardware using Olama and local LLMs like Qwen 2.5. And I'm wondering if any of you guys, like Chris or Craig, have tried putting local models and run OpenClaw, which seems to be the new darling these days of open source, LLMs on a single machine, and it can be run on Windows, Mac, or of course Linux. So you have your choice of platforms to run it.
So I don't see anybody raising their hand, but I do know a little bit of this gentleman, Alex Finn, that I follow. He says that using the big one, using Claude as your front end and paying for it is the best way because it's super smart. When you start running these lower end models on lower end machines, they can do really easy tasks, but the second that you need it to do something complicated and really think, that's where you need like so he has 2 of the $10,000 Mac Studios fully loaded with a gig or a terabyte of RAM. So it's like the fastest thing that you could possibly buy at a custom ordered, custom built. And so it just depends on what model you want to run and what you need it to do. So he has if you go to his YouTube channel, you can see what are some of the things that he does with his, but his is pretty complex. But yes, you can do it. It's just a matter of how smart do you need it to be for that activity. I think we got room for one more question. Let's hear that next one.
Squeezing it in under the line, Craig McFarlane here on the panel and in Boston, Massachusetts. Have you seen Agent Madness? Lots of inspirational and creative agent ideas. And he has a link there in the question.
Go, Craig.
And I flip over to it so people can see. There's a AI daily podcast that I listen to, and they have a fairly big community, and so they have a lot of discussions. And so he built this website to do Agent Madness, where they've got a bracket, 64. They had a few hundred entries, but they narrowed it down to 64. And some of these are I like just going through them. You can go in and vote, but if we let's see, browse. There we go. So you can see all the details, and it gives you for each one, what it's trying to accomplish, how it was put together, but the sort of second order learning of how they came up with the idea, and then they decided, that's not big enough. We can go bigger, and just so many really cool, creative ideas, whether it's helping local government or helping something in school or work or individuals. It's just filled with lots of inspirational ideas. Plus, just reading through how they ended up going through the deciding what platform to do it and roll it out on. Lots of great learning in there.
Awesome. Well, with that one, we're going to wrap up our Saturday session. Thank you to our panelists and thank you to our back-end crew. We did do a little experimentation. I saw some of our vertical streams going out. Now, one thing to note on this one, it's not doing what I've seen on some of our friends' channels with the verticals where we're getting shorts that turn into longs, but we're experimenting more. And that's one of the things I love about Saturday is being able to come in here and experiment. And we did not get enhanced media turned on in time to get this show out in enhanced media, but I am looking forward to doing that. vMix just released the plugin last night. So version 7.0 of the vMix Enhanced Media plugin is live. So look forward to next Saturday being able to push that out. And if we're lucky, Taylor will cut tomorrow on Sunday, shadow cut, and we'll be prepared for Monday's show to have Enhanced Media and Meme live. Hopefully that goes well. With that, thank you to the back-end crew. We traveled, where's those numbers? Here we go. Episode 2195, 32,000 miles, 52,000 kilometers. That's 254 million bananas for scale. With that, have a great weekend, y'all.
Mega bananas.
Bananas.
Alrighty. Does that mean I'm going to have to upgrade my camera and profile
if it
to
does,
60
you don't have to
appear on Monday's show?
You're going to get the resolution. The color fidelity will look better with enhanced media because you're at 12 megabit instead of 6. So you don't have to go to 60p. You're just going to look, obviously more fluid with movements.
Trust me, nothing will improve this face.
Well, your award in the background will look a little more punchy.
It'll be sharp.
a little sharper, a little clearer. Andy was in Zoom Test Kitchen yesterday showing it off with actually, we should have brought that up as a question. So Zoom ISO version 3 was revealed to the public for the first time yesterday. I'm surprised nobody said anything about that. That's actually...
So do you have to upgrade